What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we are going to be doing a 3-round 2024 rookie mock draft for you guys with landing spots. So with that being said, 3 rounds does mean it's going to be a little bit of a longer video. So hopefully you guys are ready to buckle in. We got a lot of good, actionable, entertaining content for you guys here in this video today. So like I said, buckle up. Without wasting any more time, why don't we just hop into the first round of this mock draft? So this draft is a 12-team Superflex tight end premium PPR. It is all of your usual standard settings. But with that being said, we are going to be starting at the 101, and we are going to be taking Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams went to the Chicago Bears in this mock draft, round 1, pick 1. We don't got to talk too much about Caleb Williams. This is a guy who we have deemed as a generational quarterback, the best quarterback in this class, in my opinion. A guy who's getting comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, all of these other guys in the NFL. We expect him to be elite, and now he goes to the Chicago Bears, where he is going to be playing with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, all of these other good weapons, DeAndre Swift included. We expect him to be the 101 in your Superflex formats, and he is the 101 here today. But that is going to take us to the 102, and here at the 102, we are going to be selecting Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels goes to the Washington Commanders in this mock draft, round 1, pick 2. So the second player off the board in the NFL draft, also the second player off the board in this mock draft. The rushing upside is incredible for Jayden Daniels. We expect him to be able to have that dual threat ability here at the next level. He's going to a situation where he gets to play under Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury has helped develop Kyler Murray into a professional quarterback at the NFL level. We expect him to do the same thing with Jayden Daniels. You get Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, maybe even a couple other weapons here in Washington, and this is a solid landing spot for Jayden Daniels. And I think a team that can use his dual threat ability, that's going to make him a great asset for your Dynasty fantasy football team. Now moving on to the 103, here's where we have our first wide receiver off the board. It is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. And Marvin Harrison went to the Los Angeles Chargers in this mock draft. He went round 1, pick 5, and was the first wide receiver taken off the board in this mock draft. So you take Marvin Harrison Jr., a guy who is a generational prospect, like we've said before. His dad, obviously a legend, Hall of Fame type of player. Marvin Harrison Jr., he has the hype, or at least has the expectations where people think that is the type of trajectory that Marvin Harrison Jr. could be on. When we talk about where he is being valued in the Dynasty community, even before stepping foot on an NFL field, he is being valued next to Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then is Marvin Harrison Jr. He is a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver day 1. And pairing him here in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert, even though we don't know what the offense looks like, we are expecting it to be a little bit more run heavy than years past. But you put him here with Justin Herbert, that is a great connection. And I fully expect him to be a top 3 pick in your Dynasty Superflex draft. Even if Jayden Daniels goes number 2, I still think people will consider Marvin Harrison at number 2. This is the type of player that Marvin Harrison is. And that's going to take us to the 104. And here at the 104 is where we take Drake Maye. Drake Maye went to the New England Patriots here in this mock draft. He went 3rd overall, so the 3rd quarterback off the board. And this landing spot is a little bit less than ideal in my opinion. I fully expect the Patriots to be a team that considers trading back here as we approach the NFL draft. But you look at Drake Maye going to the New England Patriots, they obviously have a need at the quarterback position. Maye is a toolsy quarterback, can rush, but also has a very strong, talented arm. He has a little bit of inaccuracy at times and sometimes makes some bad decisions, but overall, Drake Maye is a very talented prospect. I don't like the situation that he would be going to here in New England. Obviously, not a lot of receiving options here for him, but he is that good of a prospect, and in your Superflex leagues, he is going to be that valuable just for the quarterback position being what it is, and that's why I ended up taking him here at the 104, and that's where I think he's going to have the most value in your Superflex draft. Now, moving on to the 105, that's where we take Malik Nabers. In this mock draft, he goes to the New York Giants with the 6th overall pick. Obviously, a very talented wide receiver. Some people's 1B to Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's not a knock on Marvin Harrison Jr. That is a testament to how good Malik Nabers has been. He's very good after the catch, a guy that is going to be able to run almost every single route. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. You put him here in New York, and what that tells us is they're going to be moving forward with Daniel Jones. I think some people have expected that to be the case here with the New York Giants just based on the money that Daniel Jones has received. But Malik Nabers would be going into New York. He would be the wide receiver 1 right away, and although he may not have the best quarterback or maybe the best situation, he should see a ton of opportunity and a ton of volume right away. Massive target share expected from Malik Nabers if he lands in this type of situation, and a player that you really can't pass up. And if you can get him here at the 105, you are still getting getting a top tier elite type of talent, and you're already almost to the mid first round of your rookie draft. So a very deep class nonetheless, but Malik Nabers off the board here at the 105. Now here at the 106 is where it's going to get a little bit different. We are going to have quarterback JJ McCarthy come off the board here as our 106. He goes 4th overall in a trade up with the Arizona Cardinals. The Minnesota Vikings end up drafting JJ McCarthy here, and JJ is getting a ton of buzz right now. He just recently had his pro day. He looked very good. He had a very Twitter-worthy highlight. Some people compared it to Zach Wilson's pro day throw. I don't think ultimately we're going to put a lot of stock into that, but what it did show is that the JJ McCarthy hype is real. Teams are very excited about JJ McCarthy, and honestly, I don't think this is a guy who is going to make it outside of the top 10 picks here in the NFL draft, and I think he could be in consideration for the top 5, obviously where he's going here in today's mock draft. But JJ McCarthy, if he goes to the Minnesota Vikings, it's hard to knock the landing spot in itself. You get TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, an offensive-minded head coach that is very friendly for the quarterback position. Josh McCown, a former NFL quarterback, now the quarterback coach there in Minnesota. There's a lot of things to like about the landing spot, and I think this is a situation where the landing spot could elevate the prospect. And even though JJ McCarthy is probably not a top 6 prospect in this class, the landing spot and the position he plays gives it enough power where I think JJ McCarthy could go in this range in your Superflex rookie draft. Now here, the 107 is where we see Rome Odunze come off the board, and Rome Odunze went to the Arizona Cardinals. He went round 1, pick 8. That was that trade back and then a trade up again for the Arizona Cardinals. And I like this fit for Rome Odunze. He would be able to go in and play that X wide receiver for Kyler Murray, kind of give you that DeAndre Hopkins type of feel back with Kyler Murray in Arizona. And I think the target competition would be very little for Rome Odunze here. And honestly, if people wanted to take Rome Odunze over a JJ McCarthy, I don't really blame you at all in this type of situation. The landing spot for Rome Odunze is awesome. The fit for Rome Odunze is awesome. And overall, Rome Odunze is a very, very awesome prospect. This in all is a great fit for all things considered. And that's why Rome Odunze will be coming off the board here for us at that 107. Now moving on to the 108, that's where Brock Bowers comes off the board. He goes to the New York Jets in this mock draft, and he was picked round 1, pick 10. And we don't really got to talk too much about Brock Bowers. We know what Brock Bowers can do. He is awesome after the catch. He is a full-on receiving weapon at the tight end position. You put him here in the New York Jets, and I think he would be tight end 1 on this offense right away. And ultimately, he would probably be the number 2 receiving option on this offense next to Garrett Wilson, which when we're looking at fantasy football tight ends, we want tight ends who are at worst the second receiving option in their offense. That's what Brock Bowers would be here, and he would be able to be playing with Aaron Rodgers for at least the next year or 2, we assume. An offense that just needs more receiving options in general, Brock Bowers would fill a major hole on this offense, and a good fit for Brock Bowers here, obviously with great draft capital as well. Now moving on to the 109, that's where we select Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, and Brian Thomas Jr. goes to the Dallas Cowboys here. He was picked round 1, pick 24, so towards the back half of the first round. But I think of this fit for Brian Thomas. You got CeeDee Lamb in that X wide receiver role, maybe even playing a little bit of the slot at times. And then you have Brian Thomas Jr. at that Z, kind of being the deep threat, taking the top off of defenses. And he'd have the ability to learn more about the wide receiver position because there are some things to polish in Brian Thomas Jr.'s game, but he'd get to learn from guys like Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb in this offense. Obviously, the pairing with Dak Prescott is still great for fantasy football. And this is a team that we expect to be very competitive and still throw for a lot of touchdowns. That is kind of the calling card for Brian Thomas Jr. at LSU after breaking the touchdown record there. All in all, a great fit, good draft capital for Brian Thomas Jr. And those things all are reasons why we are selecting him here at the 109 in our rookie mock. Now moving on to the 110, this is where we select Bo Nix. And this is a little bit of a crazier pick because I don't necessarily agree with the draft capital for Bo Nix in this mock draft. He goes to the Denver Broncos. He was picked 12th overall in the first round. So with that being said, we had 5 quarterbacks in this mock draft be selected within the top 12. Absolutely insane behavior. But Bo Nix going to the Denver Broncos, he would get to be the quarterback for Sean Payton. We know what Bo Nix is good at. He is an accurate quarterback. He's good in the short and intermediate game, but he kind of lacks a little bit of arm talent as far as the deep ball goes, some of that arm strength in general. But Bo Nix going to this situation, I think they're going to have to figure out some more weapons for him because right now it's just Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Greg Dulcich. It's not a lot of guys over there. They look like they're kind of entering a full rebuild or trying to get into a rebuild, get out of a rebuild. It's a bad situation in Denver in general. We don't really know what they're doing, to be honest. But Bo Nix, the draft capital says it all. And when you have this type of draft capital, it does tie a team to a quarterback like this in your Superflex mock drafts. That's worth its weight in gold. That's why Bo Nix is going to find himself in the back half of your first rounds if this truly is the draft capital for him. Now on to the 111. That is where Xavier Worthy is going to be picked. He goes round 1, pick 19 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And my gosh, man, after running a 4.2 140, you get to pair this guy with Patrick Mahomes. We've already seen Patrick Mahomes tweeting about Xavier Worthy. This is like a match made in heaven for you in your fantasy football leagues. You get the speed, you get the arm talent of Patrick Mahomes. You pair it together and you get big plays from Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes. I don't necessarily know where he would fit in this offense right away because you still have Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Hollywood Brown. My guess is he would probably be the third wide receiver in that offense and probably just a big play kind of receiver right away. But there is potential for a guy like this who did have a very early breakout age at Texas, performed very early on. He gets to kind of be around Patrick Mahomes in this offense long term. I think some people would get very excited about that, and that's why Xavier Worthy goes here at the 111. And then to close out our first round here at the 112, that is where Jonathon Brooks, running back out of Texas, is going to be selected. He goes round 2, pick 56 to the Dallas Cowboys. And the knock on Dallas has been that they haven't done anything in free agency. We know Tony Pollard left and he went to the Tennessee Titans. Right now, there is a massive hole in Dallas right now at the running back position. Jonathon Brooks obviously recovering from an ACL, but Jonathon Brooks is a very talented 3-down back type of skill set. This is going to be a great fit for Jonathon Brooks and a lot of opportunity right away for Jonathon Brooks. Even though he may not be healthy right away, I think the fit is too good to pass up. And we honestly could see him creep up into the back half of first rounds like this because the running back class isn't spectacular. Some people are going to be looking to grab the running backs that do have value, and Jonathon Brooks is going to be very valuable if he gets that round 2 draft capital to Dallas. It is going to be a match made in heaven. Jonathon Brooks are 112 here in this rookie mock. Now that takes us into the second round of this rookie mock, and we are going to be starting it off with the 201. We have Michael Penix, quarterback for the Washington Huskies. He gets drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders, round 2, pick 33. And that makes it a very interesting quarterback room for the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and now Michael Penix Jr. We know that when rookie quarterbacks get in, they get playing time, the value goes up in Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. Just look at what Will Levis has done, Drew Lock, other guys like that in years past where they get this second round draft capital or this third round draft capital. They get starting reps and all of a sudden we start valuing them higher in the community. I think that is going to be worthy of the hype here for Michael Penix Jr. And even though I'm not the most sold on Michael Penix Jr., I don't believe in him as much as other people do. It's hard to knock a player where he's going into a situation where still the quarterback is still so murky in Las Vegas. Obviously, we all expect Gardner Minshew to probably be the day one starter, but Michael Penix Jr. definitely has a shot at earning that job. And being able to throw to Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, and Michael Mayer, there are worse receiving options in the NFL. So ultimately, Michael Penix Jr. is going to find himself in the second round of our mock draft at the 201. And probably will have some value in your Superflex league. Now at the 202 is where we are going to select Troy Franklin out of Oregon. He goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, round 2, pick 51 was the draft capital. And Troy Franklin is a favorite of mine in this class. I have him as a top 6 wide receiver, and he gets to go to a situation here in Pittsburgh where, yes, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is really the talk of the town right now, but they just traded away Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers. It is George Pickens and Van Jefferson really as the next wide receiver up. I think Troy Franklin would be able to fit into this offense incredibly right away. You pair him with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever is the quarterback ultimately long-term. We probably project the short-term answer to be Russell Wilson, the long-term to be Justin Fields, but Troy Franklin could be a centerpiece of this offense right away, and I love the fit for Troy Franklin. I love the talent of Troy Franklin, and that's why we take him here at the 202. Now at the 203 is where we go back to that running back position. We are going to select Blake Corum, who goes round 2, pick 47 to the New York Giants. And this is an ideal situation for Blake Corum. He gets to go to the New York Giants, who just lost Saquon Barkley to the Philadelphia Eagles. They obviously signed Devin Singletary to this offense, but we obviously saw that they added Malik Nabers earlier in this draft. But ultimately, this is an offense that we project to be pretty bad. I do project Blake Corum to get a ton of volume in this offense if this was the case. And with a guy like Blake Corum, volume is going to be king. With your running backs in general, the volume and the opportunity is usually what is going to float these guys. I like that for Blake Corum. I obviously like the draft capital. Round 2 is very good for this class. And ultimately, Blake Corum finds himself coming off the board as the 15th player or the 203 here in this mock. Now moving on to the 204, that is where we see Adonai Mitchell come off the board. He went to the Cincinnati Bengals, round 2, pick 49. And I think this fit for Adonai is a little bit interesting because I feel like Adonai doesn't necessarily fit into this offense, because although we look at the offense and we say, yes, we want people attached to Joe Burrow, it does raise some question marks because we know that they brought back T. Higgins. There is still some questions about whether T. Higgins is going to be with this team long term. If they're adding Adonai Mitchell, my guess is probably not going to be there long term. But for now, we have to operate as if it is Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Adonai Mitchell. That is probably why he comes off the board for me here at the 204. This is a guy that I like a lot in this community. I think Adonai Mitchell's tape is awesome. I also like the fit. I just think the opportunity might be a little bit of a slow burn, maybe similar to that Jackson Smith and Jigba type of opportunity that we saw in year one. I think that's why Adonai gets bumped down just a tiny bit, but still taking him off the 204 is good draft capital. And like I said, a awesome fit for Adonai Mitchell. Now at the 205, we are going to see Ladd McConkey come off the board. And Ladd McConkey out of Georgia going to the New Orleans Saints, round 2, pick 45. I love the fit for Ladd McConkey because right now in New Orleans, they lack playmakers in that wide receiver room. There's still some guys there that we like or we've liked a little bit in the past. Rashid Shaheed, shout out my Weber State guys. Also, we have Chris Olave, the big name there. But Michael Thomas, a free agent. And you add Ladd McConkey to this offense, and it just gives it a little bit more luster here. I think I would view Ladd McConkey as the number 2 wide receiver option in this offense. Day one, I think his skill set pairs really well with Chris Olave's. They're actually kind of similar receivers, but they will help each other get open very often. There's still concerns about the quarterback long-term with Derek Carr, but overall the opportunity should be very good for Ladd McConkey right away. And for a guy who currently sits as my wide receiver 7 in the class right now, I like this spot for Ladd McConkey. Getting that type of talent at the 205 feels criminal, but that's just a testament to how deep this class is. Now at the 206, we are going to see Jatavian Sanders get drafted. He goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Round 2, pick 53 is the draft capital. And again, we talk about the landing spots that are sparking question marks. They do have Dallas Goedert right now in Philadelphia, but we know that Goddard is getting a little bit older. Jatavian Sanders maybe is the next man up, but I think for his rookie year, this would kind of temper the expectations for JT Sanders. But for tight ends in general, we don't necessarily expect them to break out year one. Yes, we had some Dalton Kincaid. Yes, we obviously had some Sam Laporta in year one in the 2023 class, but that is abnormal. We don't usually expect that right away. JT Sanders would have the opportunity to grow in this offense here in Philadelphia, play alongside options like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. The offense would be pretty deadly here in Philadelphia, and I like the fit for JT Sanders. Just don't love the opportunity, but in a tight end premium league, it's hard to pass on the type of value that JT Sanders could give you, especially when he's getting that round 2 draft capital. Now at the 207 is where we see Xavier Legette out of South Carolina go. He goes to the Indianapolis Colts, and he got round 2 pick 46 as the draft capital. We like the fit for Legette. We obviously like Anthony Richardson as a quarterback prospect, strong arm, rushing upside. Legette would get to go play opposite of Michael Pittman Jr., and then you would have Josh Downs in the slot. This offense could get pretty nasty pretty quickly. Obviously, Pittman is the all-around type of player. Legette, a jump ball, red zone type of wide receiver for you that also has the opportunity to grow as a route runner. And then Josh Downs is that short area possession type of wide receiver. And Legette would have some upside in this offense, maybe lack a little bit of consistency just due to some of the other weapons around him. But Anthony Richardson and Xavier Legette would be a highlight waiting to happen any given Sunday. Now at the 208 is where we select wide receiver Keon Coleman out of Florida State. He goes to the Houston Texans, round 2, pick 59. And this is a fit that is a little bit odd to me, but it would tell me something a little bit more about the Texans' plans. Nico Collins and Keon Coleman, they kind of feel like similar wide receivers. They're both 6'3", 6'4". They probably profile more as those X-type wide receivers. But what we know about Nico Collins is he is going to be due for a contract extension here soon. So maybe the addition of Keon Coleman means he is going to be replacing Nico Collins as the X wide receiver long term. And if Keon Coleman doesn't show much, then they can re-sign Nico Collins. But it kind of shows their hand as a contingency option for the Nico Collins extension. And full disclosure, I'm not the biggest Keon Coleman fan. I think he still has a lot to learn if he wants to be a good professional wide receiver at the NFL level. But ultimately, this fit being paired with CJ Stroud still makes him worthy of a pick here. And in the mid to late second round, some might say it's late, some might say it's appropriate, but this feels like the right spot for a guy like Keon Coleman, where there are some concerns about opportunity right away. Now moving on to the 209, that is where we are going to see another running back come off the board, Trey Benson out of Florida State. He goes to the New England Patriots, round 3, pick 68. So we're now as a third round running back, but day 2 draft capital nonetheless. Trey Benson, another running back that has that 3-down skill set. You put him here in New England, He gets to play with Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson in this backfield, gives another weapon to Drake Maye. My guess is Trey Benson would kind of be the running back 2 for at least this year. He would take it over from Antonio Gibson, which I don't know if we really expected much out of him in the first place, but it would be Ramondre Stevenson and Trey Benson, with the idea that Trey Benson will be the full-time back long-term after Ramondre Stevenson's contract comes to an end. But ultimately, this is just the New England Patriots looking to get more weapons for their new quarterback in Drake Maye. When you look at the running backs, like I said, opportunity and volume is what we're going to be looking for. I think there is a pathway for Trey Benson to have that, and obviously the draft capital is ideal. That is why he's going to come off the board for us here at the 209. And at the 210, we have Roman Wilson come off the board, wide receiver out of Michigan. He goes to the Chicago Bears. Round 3, pick 75 is the draft capital. And Roman Wilson was balling out at the Senior Bowl. He was balling out at his pro day. A riser so far for us in this NFL draft process. But Roman Wilson would get to go to the Chicago Bears. He would get to play with Caleb Williams. Obviously, he's going to have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen there as competition in that wide receiver room. But I think Roman Wilson could find himself as the wide receiver 3 in this offense. And obviously, Keenan Allen is a little bit older than most of the wide receivers in the NFL. There's probably not that much longer on his NFL career. Roman Wilson could be drafted here by the Chicago Bears to kind of be groomed under these elite route runners in Keenan Allen, and then eventually take over for Keenan Allen as he chooses retirement. But I think this is a good fit for Roman Wilson. I just want a guy tied to Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be a great prospect. And then Roman Wilson here at the 210, again, a very valuable pick here at the 210. Crazy how much value is in this draft. I know I've said it before, but it is insane how much value is in this draft. At the 211, we have wide receiver Malachi Corley coming off the board. He's coming out of Western Kentucky, a little bit of a smaller school. We know a lot about Malachi Corley. If you've been a fan of this channel, we talked about him a lot. He goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars here. Round 3, pick 96 is the draft capital. And I like the fit for Malachi Corley in Jacksonville. It's kind of a Swiss Army knife. You can use him in the slot, use him in the screen game. You can use him a whole bunch of different ways, really, but ultimately, he is a guy who hasn't developed a full route tree yet. He says he has it. If you ask him, he says he has it. He wants to display it. We'll see if that really is true. But Malachi Corley, he would go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have Gabe Davis and they have Christian Kirk, but I still think that there's room for a guy like Malachi Corley to find himself into this offense and find a role in this offense. I think it would be similar to what we saw with Jayden Reed in last year's class, a guy who went to an opportunity where he wasn't going to see massive playing time right away, but the talent always wins out. And I think Malachi Corley's talent could win out here in Jacksonville, and that's why we select him at the 211. Now at the 212 is where we're going to see another running back off the board. It is going to be Jaylen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. And Jaylen goes to the Arizona Cardinals here. Round 3, pick 66. And Jaylen Wright is a little bit of a bigger running back. He runs a little bit upright, but he's fast. He's explosive. He has this type of play style that is good at the NFL level. He probably lacks a little bit of that free flowiness, that elusiveness that we've seen out of some running backs at the NFL level. But ultimately, you put him here in Arizona. He gets to play behind James Conner right away, probably take over for James Conner as his career progresses. The draft capital speaks for itself. Day 2, that's what we want for the NFL running back. Jaylen Wright gets that. And to be here in Arizona with Kyler Murray, Rome Odunze, James Conner. I mean, we said it all, man. This is a good fit for Jaylen Wright and definitely worthy of a late second round pick here in your rookie draft. And now moving on to the third and final round for today's rookie mock. Told you it was a long one, so buckle up. We got 12 more guys to talk about. At the 301, Ricky Pearsall, he comes off the board to the Atlanta Falcons. Round 3, pick 90 is the draft capital. And I really like Pearsall's game. Pearsall is a very refined route runner, a guy who can kind of do it all. He has good speed, good athleticism, and he has good size for the NFL. You put him in Atlanta here, he gets to play alongside Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, and then play with an accurate quarterback like Kirk Cousins. I think Ricky Pearsall would fill that slot wide receiver role, and I think he'd have some value day 1. I like the fit, and that's why we're going to be taking him here at the 301. Now here at the 302, we are going to select Braelon Allen. He goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, out of Wisconsin, round 3, pick 92. I don't love the fit for Braelon Allen, but I understand the fit. He gets the round 3 draft capital that we want to see out of those running backs, but obviously he would go to a situation where he would have to compete with Rachaad White, who has looked good for your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams to this point. I think Braelon Allen and Rachaad White are different types of players. Braelon Allen is a little bit more of that bruiser, that big running back type of style, where Rachaad White is very good in the receiving game. A lot of people last year got very excited about Sean Tucker when he got into this backfield. We're talking about Sean Tucker RB1 season, a whole bunch of nonsense. Braelon Allen may get that same type of hype, but I think we should pause it. This would kind of show to me that this is a full running back by committee, and obviously it would hurt Rachaad White. It probably also would cap the upside for Braelon Allen, but ultimately there's still going to be value in this type of landing spot behind an offensive line like they have in Tampa Bay. You just probably are not going to get the volume out of Braelon Allen here. But at the 302, you look for types like this. This is the type of draft capital you want. Maybe the talent still finds a way to find playing time here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now we're going to move on to another running back coming off the board here at the 303. It is going to be Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson. Shipley comes off the board round 4, pick 105 to the Los Angeles Chargers. And we know that the Los Angeles Chargers want to run the football under Jim Harbaugh. Will Shipley has been good at the college level for a very long time. The draft capital isn't as good as we want, but we know that the talent there in Los Angeles isn't incredible either. They still have Gus Edwards, but he's a little bit older. Isaiah Spiller, Larry Roundtree, Joshua Kelly, these are kind of the guys that have been in that offense. You put Will Shipley here, he has the ability to receive out of the backfield and also rush the football. I like him here with Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he'd have some sneaky PPR upside. And I think as people start to watch more Will Shipley, this is a guy that could creep up your rookie mock, especially if he gets a landing spot like this where he's going to get a chance at some opportunity day one. Now moving on to the 304, that is where we have MarShawn Lloyd out of USC. He goes to the Indianapolis Colts, round 3, pick 82. And this is kind of unfortunate. We know that this happens every year where you get those prospects that you like, but they get a bad landing spot. I think this is that for MarShawn Lloyd. He would obviously be going in this backfield as the backup to Jonathon Taylor. There would be no opportunity for MarShawn Lloyd to beat out Jonathon Taylor. They just extended him. This would purely be a depth piece for the Indianapolis Colts, and because of that, it is tough for your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams to buy into a prospect like this. So if some of you guys even feel like MarShawn Lloyd should go lower than this, if this is truly the landing spot, I don't disagree with you by any means, but he was probably the most talented player left on the board. Situation's just not great, but MarShawn Lloyd, 304 here to the Indianapolis Colts. Now moving on to the 305, that is where we are going to see Jaylen Polk come off the board for the Baltimore Ravens. He was selected round 4, pick 113. Jaylen Polk, obviously going to the Baltimore Ravens, would get to play alongside Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. There's still some guys like Rashad Bateman there. There's still some guys like Nelson Aguilar. They've added a couple other free agents this offseason, but ultimately Odell Beckham has left this team, opening up a chance for another starting wide receiver to come in and take the job. I think Jaylen Polk's play style would complement Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers pretty well. And although this isn't a prospect that we think is elite in this class, this is a guy who would be able to have some opportunity in an offense with a guy like Lamar Jackson. And I do think that there is some value here in the fit in Baltimore. And that's why he's going to come off the board for us here at the 305. Now moving on to the 306, we are going to be selecting wide receiver Brenden Rice out of USC. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals, round 4, pick 129. So again, the Arizona Cardinals adding another weapon, Rome Odunze, Brenden Rice, and Jaylen Wright here in this draft so far, giving Kyler Murray some weapons in this offense. Now, I don't necessarily like the fit for Brenden Rice here. I think the offense is good, but when you look at the type of wide receivers that are there in Arizona, Rome Odunze, Michael Wilson, Brenden Rice, they all kind of feel somewhat similar. I don't necessarily think Brenden Rice would be a top 2 wide receiver on this offense right away. I don't even know if he would ever find his way as a top 2 wide receiver on this offense, but this offense should be good. I like the quarterback in the offense and the round 4 draft capital. Nothing crazy, but still decent for a wide receiver. But really here, we're at the point in the draft where you're looking for guys who, one, have upside and can find opportunity at some point. I think Brenden Rice has that. There's definitely worse fits than Brenden Rice here in the 4th round to the Arizona Cardinals, but he is going to be our pick here at the 306. And now it's been a while, but we are going to go with our next tight end off the board here at the 307. It is going to be Benson out of Kansas State. He was selected in the 2nd round of this mock draft. He went pick 39 to the Carolina Panthers. And I'm definitely not the biggest Benson guy by any means. I don't know if anybody is in general, maybe other than Ben's family, but Ben is definitely a guy who can play receiver at all 3 levels at that tight end position. I think there's going to be value. And when you look at the Carolina Panthers, they need receiving options. They need guys who can come in and fill a void. Benson with the draft capital tells me that the Carolina Panthers think that he can be that for them. This is more so me leaning on the opportunity that I see Benson being able to get right away, and not necessarily the prospect of what I think Ben is going to be at the NFL level, which sometimes I think can get you in trouble. But at this point, at the 307, it's not like we're deciding between superstars anyway. So you get Benson here to the Panthers at the 307, round 2 draft capital. In your tight end premium leagues, you're probably going to be pretty happy with that type of situation. Now at the 308, we are going to have Tez Walker out of UNC. He's selected by the Washington Commanders, round 3, pick 67. So Tez Walker, he gets to go to this offense where he's playing alongside Terry McLaurin. He's playing alongside Jahan Dotson. He's also playing with Jayden Daniels. This is a decent situation for Tez Walker. We know Cliff Kingsbury here in this air raid type of offense that he's ran in the past, they do use a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, so Tez Walker should find himself on the field. Curtis Samuel just left in free agency to Buffalo, so there is a role to fill here in Washington as well. I think Tez Walker, maybe not the most talented wide receiver, but the opportunity is still there nonetheless. A guy that is going to have to learn more about the wide receiver position as he gets to the NFL level. Hopefully playing with guys like Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin can help him with that. I do want to see him extend his route tree, and he definitely does have to fix some of the drop issues that we've seen in college and at the Senior Bowl. But ultimately, Tez Walker to the Washington Commanders, he comes off the board for us here at the 308. Now coming off the board here at the 309, we are going to have Jermaine Burton, who goes to the Carolina Panthers as well. Round 4, pick 101. Again, finding more weapons for Bryce Young. Jermaine Burton, maybe not the sexiest of wide receiver prospects in this class. When you think of all of the guys that you would probably select before him, there's a reason why he's going in the 4th round, but overall, he's a very well-rounded wide receiver. I think he has good ball tracking skills, and this is a guy who could be a value in this situation in your rookie draft. Jermaine Burton definitely would have some opportunity right away. We talk about some of the other wide receivers there. Obviously, Adam Thielen, a little bit older, Deontay Johnson there, but Jermaine Burton would definitely find a way into this offense right away, and he had a decent collegiate career there at Alabama. Hopefully he can tack onto that now as he reunites with Bryce Young, who also is from Alabama, now on the Carolina Panthers. He's going to be our selection here at the 309. Now at the 310, we are going to be selecting Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia. He goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, round 4, pick 120. And this is a player who is going to be going into an opportunity that is very crowded right away. We've talked about some of the weapons there. They obviously added JT Sanders in this, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. We know all of the guys here. I think Malik Washington will have to find himself onto the football field first. That may be a little bit harder for him to do. They added Devontae Parker this offseason, and although I don't think Devontae Parker is that great of a wide receiver, I think Malik Washington is more so a replacement for what Quez Watkins was in this offense, and he may have some opportunity to show out on special teams, probably as the wide receiver 4 or 5 on this offense right away. This is a guy that we're probably going to have a slow burn with, but Malik Washington did have a very productive college career. This is more so a bet on the player and less on the opportunity here in Philadelphia. But Malik Washington, he is going to be our pick here at the 310, and somebody that I would feel decent about, even 34 players into your rookie draft. Now we got 2 players left here at the 311. We are going to be selecting Cade Stover, who comes out of Ohio State in round 3, pick 78 to the Washington Commanders. And Cade Stover had a very productive career there at Ohio State. He actually kind of reminds me a little bit of what Jake Ferguson was coming into the NFL as a prospect. So if you kind of remember how that was for Jake Ferguson on the Dallas Cowboys, he didn't play right away, but he found himself into some opportunity later in his career. Cade Stover going to the Washington Commanders, I think could find himself in a very similar situation. Zach Ertz, obviously the starting tight end there right now, reunited with Cliff Kingsbury, but Cade Stover tells me he could possibly be the tight end of the future here for the Washington Commanders, and a guy that I would definitely feel comfortable drafting here in my tight end premium league. And now last but not least, at the 312, we are going to go back to the quarterback position. We are taking Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina. He goes to the Atlanta Falcons here, round 4, pick 109. And yes, we know that they signed Kirk Cousins. We know that he is the quarterback for them for the near future, but to me, Spencer Rattler is a talented quarterback. And in your Superflex leagues, we want to have those types of players on our teams. We know that the quarterback position is so valuable. And if you play in a league where you can stash a quarterback for his rookie or his sophomore year, maybe 2 years on a taxi squad, Spencer Rattler to me is definitely worth one of those picks. And here's the 36th player off the board. There's definitely a lot worse players than you could be drafting than Spencer Rattler. I like what he's shown us on tape. This is a very high pedigree prospect coming into college. Obviously, he had some character concerns and things like that, but ultimately, he showed out at the Senior Bowl. He gets to go to Atlanta, and the talent, the pedigree, and the potential offense that he could be in the future, even if it's 2 years down the road, kind of similar to how Jordan Love was in Green Bay, that is a player that I'm willing to hold on the back end of my rosters for a year or two as we kind of see how that plays out. Now, all right, guys, that is all I have for you guys today. Again, it was a little bit of a longer video. I apologize for that, but I wanted to do 3 rounds for you guys. If you didn't mind the little bit of a longer video and you enjoyed 3 rounds, you want to see more 3-round mock drafts, put it in the comments below. That is the only way that I'm going to know that you guys truly want to see 3-round, maybe even 4-round mock drafts in the future. And while you're down there, make sure you guys hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. And also make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button. That is the only way that you guys will get notified of future uploads. And that is the only way that you guys will never lose this channel, because I want to see you back here again. Last but not least, join our Discord. We do have a Discord that is linked in the description. It's free to join. We're in there talking Dynasty Fantasy Football 24/7, 365. So like I said, free to join, no risk in doing that. So click that link in the description. But with all of those things out of the way, I will see you guys on our next video. But until then, peace out.